This ain't no joke, this ain't no game. This that CSZ game. They said pull up, so I came. You better put some respect on their name. Yeah, 55 was goody. Kill the vibe, how could he? Big card on the hoodie. Let me break it down for you fully. This ain't your average broadcast. This ain't just no podcast. The mother show spread fake news. We just call them broadcasts. West, Joey, Sam, Sean, Dalton, and you know that boy Higgy. He said he don't want no small fries. Tell them they better make them biggie. Yeah, you already know what we be on. We got the crown, we hold the throne. We throw the mails and you take them home. When they ring the bells, you know that it's home. The bar is set, we setting the tone. If we set it and set it in stone. Now sit in the seat and set up your phone. You in the Cardinal Sports Zone.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Wallman. We bring you this week another fine episode of Game Day Prep. That's where we sit down with people from opposing teams, the people that cover the opposing teams. And, we talk a little shop. We have a little fun. We try not to get too personal. And, we just have a good time. Today, I brought on someone to talk to us who represents a site that I have followed from the very beginning of our trip into the ACC. They were on with us on our radio show back a couple years ago when we were on ESPN Louisville. The site's called Rubbing the Rock, and they're the best at what they do, in my opinion. Today from Rubbing the Rock, we have my guy, Shawn Spencer. Shawn, what's up? How you doing, my man?
What's up, man? Happy to be on.
Man, we are so happy to have you again, as I stated. Rubbing the Rock, one of the best ones out there. I mean, I would say the best. I don't have a full knowledge of all of them, but every dealings I've had with them, we've come on, we've done stuff with them on their website. They've done stuff with us on our website. They've come on our show, and so on and so forth. Always been a great experience. We appreciate you guys. We're just going to jump right into things tonight, though, because it's 8 o'clock. So for me, you know what that means. It's time for Monday Night Raw. We're recording this on a Monday night, so I'm about to watch. I'm gonna do this. I love this more, so I'm gonna do this. Then I'm gonna watch wrestling and enjoy the rest of my evening. So let's jump right into it. This game, 7:30 primetime game. Depending on which site you look at, where Louisville is a 4 to 5 point underdog. So we're getting to game day prep. The way we do game day prep, Shawn, is I ask 5 fun questions, and then we get down to business in the last 5. So let's get started. So the first question I have for you, you cover a team that has seemingly become a powerhouse overnight. And when I say overnight in college football is like over a 15-year period. So for you, and I don't know how old you are or how long you've covered Clemson, but how has that felt? Because everybody just assumes, even if you ask them now, they're like, it's Alabama and everybody else. But if you ask me, like, Clemson is right up there with them, and that's something that they had to build on to get to, and your head coach helped get that done, and the environment there, everything. So how's that felt to cover a team that has kind of went, like, I don't want to say from rags to riches, because y'all certainly weren't in rags. Y'all were in fine bath towels, if you will. But how's that felt to kind of like, y'all took that, not a lot of college football teams take that next step. It's for about the last 15 to 20 years, it's been Alabama and everybody else. And then the last, like I said, the last 10, y'all have crept up there, and y'all are the gold standard in college football, in my opinion. So I've already asked you twice. Again, I told you before we got on here, I said, man, I love to talk. Sometimes you got to reel me in. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut up for a second. How has this felt to cover the Clemson Tigers?
Hey, well, I got to say first, you talk about wrestling. I'm kind of an AEW fan, so,
all right, and that's been this week's episode of the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast. We'll talk to y'all next week. No, I'm just kidding. I love all wrestling. I actually live here in Louisville, which is home of OVW, big wrestling fan my whole life. But go ahead, AEW. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to joke with you there for a second.
So, you're talking about rags to riches. Just absolutely phenomenal what they're doing. But talking about Clemson for a minute, I've grown up my whole life a Clemson fan, and I started covering the team right as Deshaun Watson came in 2014. So that was kind of the first year that I started professionally writing about Clemson.
Okay.
And so it was crazy to see, and it's been a fun ride to see the development and the just the way that Dabo has built the program. It's something that, I mean, back in 2005 when Tommy Bowden was the coach, you never thought that was going to happen. You say, find towels, but no, there were some real bad years in there, especially in the 90s and kind of that post Danny Ford era where Clemson never found itself. You had Tommy West and Ken Hatfield, and then Bowden came along, and there was just that time where it was like, is that going to be what we are? We're going to be that 7-5, that 8-4 team that gets ever so close to winning the Atlantic and falls short basically every year. But Bowden beat South Carolina, so at least he had that going for him. But so there was kind of just that whole period of time between the 80s when Clemson was dominant. They just won one national championship, but it was a dominant period. Where they had several top 10 finishes and stuff, and just that whole couple of decades of just wondering, are they ever going to get back to any kind of relevancy nationally? And it's been crazy to see the way that Dabo has built the program, and it has been a fun ride. It's been cool. 6 straight playoffs, 6 straight ACC championships. Obviously, the playoffs not happening this year, and the ACC championship's not looking great right now. But it's just, I mean, it's been a lot of fun to cover the program and to see that growth and to see, just a difference in, when I go out to, I mean, I can tell you, like, back in 2005, that era with Bowden, I mean, you could take a trip somewhere and people would see that Clemson hat and they'd be like, is that one of your is that a high school hat? What is that? And now, making the trip out to Arizona or, to Dallas and some of the places Clemson's been, people see that hat and they recognize the Paul. They know who Clemson is. And so you're right in saying that. And they obviously got a long way to go, but it has been fun just to kind of see that growth and development.
Absolutely, and we here at Louisville have been waiting for a long time. We were on the cusp of it, and then we kind of got Cragthorpe there for a couple of years, so that stunted our growth. But I want to tell you this though: here in the state of Kentucky, the Clemson Paw has always been noticed and prevalent, mostly because, and this is what kind of made y'all a natural rival for us. Well, I mean, it's not really a rivalry when you don't win a game, but a natural hated team, not really hated, but okay, this is going to be the team that we want to, because I'll be honest with you, coming into the ACC, I thought it was going to be reversed. I thought it was going to be you all. And now you got to remember at this time, y'all were right on the verge of it. Y'all hadn't really hit it yet. Y'all were just starting to or whatever. But I was like, all right, so we'll win every other year against Clemson, and then Florida State's just going to completely dominate us. And then they fell flat on their rear ends, and y'all shot straight up. But the Clemson Paul being prevalent here, the reason why it made it such a natural rival for us is because all the Kentucky basketball fans are Clemson football fans. So we see the Clemson gear all over town and have since I was a little – I don't know how that makes y'all feel. I don't know if y'all even knew that. But the Kentucky football sucks, and they always have. They're having a good year this year. They're having a decent year. They're beating the teams that they would normally lose to. So kudos on that. But, no, their fans if I had to evenly do this, they're 30% Alabama fans, 40% Clemson fans, and then 30% Notre Dame fans. So that you have that wide range of, you can tell who was the best team in the country because they're also Yankees fans, Celtics fans, every team that does well, that's who they jump on their bandwagon. So yeah. So just so you know, here in the state of Kentucky, the Clemson Paw has always been noticed and respected. Question number 2. Now, I've asked this question on every edition of Game Day Prep so far. Even though it's been a while, what are your overall feelings and thoughts on Louisville as an addition to the ACC?
I think Louisville has been one of the better additions. There was during the summer where we kind of dove into looking back at because conference expansion was such a big topic back in the summer, and it's going to continue to be. But to me, Louisville did what Syracuse and even Boston College and just Miami comes in and is supposed to be a football powerhouse, and they just haven't been. And the one thing that I'll say about Louisville is that there has at least been some football success that because yes, basketball is important, and I know up there in the state of Kentucky, obviously
Yeah.
huge deal, but the money is in football.
Yeah.
And to me, Louisville has had some top 25 finishes. That's always been a program that, at least since you've been in the ACC, hasn't ever been a pushover. And to me, that has made them a good addition, compared to like a Syracuse who, they've had some basketball success, and that's fine. But I mean, if you can't offer much on the football end, you're not giving to the conference very much because
Right.
the money's in football. So
Absolutely.
that was kind of one of the things that we looked at over the summer was just, the revenue and how the ACC network is, generating money. And, going forward, the conference has got to find a way to get better and be more relevant in football if they're going to compete with, the SEC and the Big Ten, some of those other conferences as far as revenue is concerned. But that's a different discussion. But to me, I think Louisville's been a great addition. I've enjoyed the rivalries. I've enjoyed, back in just a few years ago, the Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson game is one of the highlights of my fandom, professional, whatever you want to call it. It was just a fun atmosphere, and seeing those two guys, you knew they were both going to be special. And so to me, it's been a fun rivalry. It's been fun that Louisville's one of those teams that there's been a few times Clemson's been double-digit favorite, and you come in and all of a sudden you're in the fourth quarter and it's a 3-point game. So Louisville's one of those teams that to me has really garnered respect because of how they've played Clemson for the most part during, this run where Clemson's kind of dominated everybody. Seems like Louisville still has been one of those teams that can give them a game.
We're trying, buddy. I promise you, it may not feel like it, but I will say this: you are correct. The first, so we've been in the AC. Is this our 7th year in the ACC? I should have wrote that down. I don't do well with the whole prep thing, even though that's ironic because the name of the show is Game Day Prep. But I think this is like our 7th year in the ACC, and the first 3 or 4 years, you're right, it was a dogfight, and even that 4th year, I believe we were. That was the game that was. Maybe it wasn't the 4th year. Maybe I'm thinking of the 3rd year. Y'all came in. No, 3rd year would have been. So it was the 4th year. The 4th year, y'all came into town, and it was a battle all the way up into the 3rd quarter. We had a couple interceptions that game.
Yep.
Great defensive battle, and then we got tired, and you all put your 3rd string 5 stars in and ran us off the field. But no, I'll be honest with you. My favorite baseball rivalry in the ACC is Clemson because you never know, like the whole Seth Beer, Brendan McKay battles, like that was so. And because Louisville, a lot of people think Louisville and they think basketball or football, but over the last 16 years, Louisville baseball has been a force nationally, and Dan McDonald is one of the best coaches in the country and continues to get us to the World Series about every other year. And so when we look at our ACC rival in baseball, it's definitely Clemson. Maybe Virginia close second, but Clemson is the team that we love to play. I go to all the home games, so I put circles on the calendar around the Clemson games because I do not want to miss those. Question number 3. I've had this asked by thousands of people, so I have to ask you: why do you all rush the field after beating a bad team? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I put that on there. I can show you. It says I'm just kidding. Can you explain to the people out there, because I know that gets frustrating. People are like, oh, they just beat Kent State. Why are they rushing the field? That's not what it is. Can you explain to them what y'all are doing?
Yeah, act like you've been there before. Jeez, what's wrong?
6 straight playoffs. Y'all rush the field.
Yeah, so that was something that's been going on for years and well before I was born, and before, where it's a tradition called Gather Out the Paw, where Clemson fans get on the field and they kind of surround the team some, and everybody sings the alma mater together. And it's just been something that, I mean, they've done for years and years and years, and it's kind of been a special thing. I'll go ahead and tell you that it's probably coming to an end, so people won't be able to throw that at Clemson anymore. You know, obviously they you know, last year with COVID and everything didn't do it, and then this year they haven't done it so far. And so I'm thinking, you know, even security wise with stuff like that, people being around all the players, that it may be something that kind of gets slowly phased out. But even so, it's been a tradition that Clemson's had for a long time, and it's a special thing getting to go on the field. And you know, you'll see afterwards kids are going and catching touchdowns in the end zone.
That's awesome.
And you know, stuff like that. But yeah, so it's a tradition that they've had. Go on the field, sing alma mater. Just lots of people go, and you know, Clemson. I don't know if you've ever been to a game at Clemson, but one of the fun special things is it's like a big family. And so you've got people that, you know, you're around, and the only time you see them is those 6 or 7 Saturdays a year. And so a lot of times there'll be people that'll be, you know, there's, you know, your seats are on the north side of the stadium, your friends are on the south of Paul, and you know, they'll go and catch up right there on the field after the game. So it's been a fun tradition. I hope that it continues, but like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of slowly, silently start to phase that out.
Yeah, and that is, you know, it's one of the good. I mean, y'all have that. That's the one thing I will say. I have not made it to a game yet. I was supposed to be at the Lamar Deshaun shootout, and I had a family issue I had to tend to that kept me from going to that one. Which I still to this day, I'm like, I had to take care of the family though. That's most important, but. No, that's the one thing. After one of our writers at the website, Jeff Nunn, he posted a story, and you all shared it and posted it on your website about his experience and about how he wanted to come down there and just hate everybody and just have it be a good in a fun way, not like just wish death upon y'all, but just he couldn't because welcome to Clemson just every 5 seconds, and just when y'all come to town here, there's an influx of $2 bills and with orange paw stamps on it. It's just you couldn't hate you all if we wanted to. Just everybody talked about was how nice everybody was and how welcome they felt. And even after the game and it was a loss, people were like, "Oh, sure, sorry things didn't go out." I mean, not even like in the Kentucky way where they do that to be douchebags. Like you all were genuinely concerned for our mental well-beings after the loss because it was such a great game. So, yeah, I have nothing bad to say. Every Clemson fan I've talked to, I have hundreds of Clemson fans that follow me just for my takes on the Louisville Clemson in all sports. So, I mean, never had a negative interaction with any of them. One of them was like one of my, I say best Twitter friends. I mean, it's not like it's real life, but I talk to him on Twitter all the time. His name's like @RichDeRuler. And just like any time Louisville's playing on TV and they're playing a good game, I get a DM, "Hey man, y'all are playing really well tonight. Hope y'all get the W." And like it just, I have nothing bad to say whatsoever about Clemson or the fan base. Question number 4: your favorite Louisville player of all time that is not named Lamar Jackson or Teddy Bridgewater?
Oh man.
You should say James Quick because he's the reason y'all won that game.
I was thinking about that. Man, let me think about this for a second.
You have to
I know you say you can't say Lamar Jackson, but man, like to me, I was just so so impressed with him during, his time. I mean, I'll go and tell you, I haven't watched a ton of Louisville football, but during that time when he was with Louisville, I had to go tune in just because of how special he was. And so I know you said I can't say him.
I'll let you know what, y'all are always so nice to us. I'll let you say him. You can have him.
Maybe another guy, just seeing him play with Tom Brady. I really like Deion Branch. I didn't watch him a ton at Louisville, but seeing him play with the Patriots and do what he did, win a Super Bowl, he might have won two, but I think he was a special player. Just the way he was able to, just the pure athleticism and the way he could create separation and everything. So maybe he is my next guy.
There
but
you
to
go.
me, I got to go Lamar Jackson. I know you said not to, but I know it's a cop-out answer. I'm sorry.
You're the first person to challenge me on that, though. That's what's most, and I'm not even going to argue with it because y'all are the nicest people on earth. So I'll go ahead and let you. You asked, please. You said please. I'm going to go ahead. You got him. You get Lamar. The last lighthearted question. I mean, they're all going to. None of them are going. I'm not going to send you any hardballs questions. So question number 5. Before we move to the second half, for the Cardinal fans who haven't ever made the trip to Clemson and are going to go this next season, what do they need to see and where do they need to eat? Because, as I've said, every episode of this podcast, Cardinal fans love to do a few things. They like to tailgate. They like to drink until they black out. They like to start showing up in the second quarter of the football game, and they like to eat. They like to eat. So, where do they need? What are some must go places there?
Well, I'll go ahead and tell you, if you can only go to one place and you like to eat, you need to try Smoking Pig. Excellent barbecue, good brisket, barbecue chicken. It's a different style of barbecue than what you're probably used to up in Kentucky. It's that Carolina barbecue style, but it's really good. Really just, to me, off the chain. Whenever I go, I always try to stop at Smoking Pig and get something. SO Club is a huge deal down there. Lots of fun. Wouldn't recommend going there on a game day because it'll be kind of packed.
Right.
But if you're kind of coming in on a Friday night, stop by SO Club. Lots of fun. It's a good place to go and watch games if you're sticking in town, for a Sunday and want to go watch some NFL or something. That's a lot of fun. And then I'd also recommend just go up to some Clemson fans tailgates. You talked about Clemson fans being welcoming, and I've seen it over and over again. Go find some Clemson fans. They'd be more than happy to host you. Find somebody that's got a grill, smells good. Maybe they got a couple TVs lined up with some games, and they'll fix you right up.
There you go. That's what I like to hear. Now, I want to ask I know I said I was out of the lighthearted questions, but I just have to ask you this because this guy is the only, I said it earlier, I don't know how I forgot this guy, is the only Clemson fan that absolutely just gets under my skin. And he called into our radio show after that Clemson win down here in Louisville. We were doing the post game, and he just made fun of every person on the radio, all of our moms, our dads, our grannies. I know you. I probably don't even have to say his name. I will though, just so you don't name somebody else. But Clemson Tom, is he as? I mean, is that just the way he is, or is he just? I don't know. He gets under my skin.
Man, I have never had a bad experience with Clemson Tom. Maybe that was one of his. Maybe that was one of his bad days. Most of the time, he's a pretty lighthearted dude. So I don't know. Maybe he was just trying to pick some fun. He used to do a lot of videos that were like trash talking videos, but it's always normally been in good fun. So that's a little out of character for him. But
well, no, he sounded very happy while he was doing it. The problem was we had just lost the game, and we wasn't trying to hear nothing like that. But no, I'm sure he is a good dude. But he just. That night just kind of got under my skin, and I'm like, you know what? I'm unfollowing Clemson Tom. I'm never refollowing him, and I'll just stick to the 600-700 Clemson fans that follow me that I do care about. So
Hey, I can't blame you for that. There's definitely a time and place for everything, and but that that's not normally him, I don't think. But I'll go ahead and tell you, every fan base, you've been really complimentary of Clemson fans. Every fan base has got those fans, that take it too far, just a little obnoxious and everything. But
Yeah, I live
luckily, I
about
think
60 miles west from a whole fan base like that, so I understand what you mean
well,
there.
we live with just enamored in one uh, right here in South Carolina. They're just down the road, so uh, we understand your pain a little bit.
Do you get just as much flack from South Carolina or North Carolina fans that you do from South Carolina fans?
Uh, we've gotten a little more from North Carolina recently, with the Mac Brown emergence.
Okay.
But South Carolina fans are just, I mean, you you talk about welcoming fans and non-welcoming fans. That's when you've got to dodge glass bottles being thrown at
Yeah.
you. That's not a great environment sometimes. So we get what you're saying sometimes with the fans.
Well, I mean, they tried to steal our coach too last year, and a lot of our fan base wishes that they would have successfully stolen him. I wasn't one of them. I actually think that he's done a fantastic job, even though the record may not indicate that. It takes more than 2 years to build a program, and I truly believe he'll. Knock on wood, I truly believe that he was the guy for the job. He is the guy for the job, and I personally have told everybody, especially on this past weekend's episode of the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast, I'm willing to give him the rest of this year and next year before I start criticizing, because COVID, it wreaked havoc on everybody. And some teams it was more prevalent, some teams it wasn't. We had 20 players out every game last year, and people still had the nerve to be like, we only won 4 games. And I'm like, well, you know what? We won 4 games. So it could have been way, way worse. But, all right, let's get back on track. Jeremy gets off track. If you listen to the shows, Jeremy gets off track a lot. We'll get back on real quick. Since we're at halftime of the show, I want to thank the fine sponsors of the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast: Fitness Market, Shack in the Back Barbecue, Derby City Lawn and Landscaping, All-American Pool and Supply Company, and Four Pegs Beer Lounge. Fantastic. We talked about barbecue earlier. He's got them and Shack in the Back both have great brisket, great smoked wings, and great drink prices on the weekend. So go check them out. All right. Shawn, I got to be honest with you. At the beginning of the season, we did a season preview, and I did something really, really stupid. At the time, I thought it was stupid. But as each week has went by, it has looked more and more attainable. And I say that in the most respectful way, because at the beginning of the season on the preview show, I ended the show by saying we're going to go 8-4, and this is the year we're going to beat Clemson. Now, I had no idea. I had no idea that Clemson was going to struggle. Still, a struggle season for you all is what most programs strive for. So I don't say that with any disrespect, but I said we're going to beat Clemson this year, and then I said even if it's by a COVID forfeit, we're going to get the W this year. Not to make a joke about COVID, but I was like, something to give the fan base a little something to get excited for. They've been talking all year like, Jeremy, you might be right. You might be right. So I know that wasn't necessarily a question, but I asked you a couple extra in the first half, and I got a few extra in the second half. So that was just more of a statement. For those of us Louisvillians that don't know, who is the Clemson MVP right now, and is it? And I'm gonna give this a shot. DJ Uiagalelei.
You're close.
Close.
You were close. It's Uiagalelei.
I said lately. I started yodeling at the end of that. I don't know. Gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to call him DJU then. Is that cool?
That's cool. That's what we call him too.
I was like, man, I thought I was going to have – I heard it. I was – now, I said earlier I don't do a lot of prep, but the one thing I did prep for was to try to – and I've even got it written out. U-E, capital letters on, and then lowercase letters, G-L-A. And I said Galele. Like I was – the Kentucky came out in me somehow. I was like, "Hey, everybody, let's play the ukulele." So
he's used to it by now. But yeah, after saying it a bunch of times, it rolls off the tongue. Uiagalelei. So after a while you get used to it. But
Uwe Underlay, I got it that time.
as far as MVP for Clemson goes, you've got to look on the defensive side of the ball because the offensive side of the ball has been atrocious. And honestly, Dabo, and we can talk about this further if you want to, but Dabo's talked about how Clemson's just a few plays away from being undefeated. Well, Clemson's also just a few plays away from being like 1-6 right now. 1-7. So I mean, it's been a year where the defense has had to come through time and time again. And to me, right now, the MVPs are James Skalski, who's starting middle linebacker, 6-year senior guy. Came back. He missed a game with injuries, but for the most part has been on the field. And what he does is he's the quarterback of that defense.
Absolutely.
He's basically just an extension of Brent Venables. So he's able to call things and see things. And there's even been a couple times where Brent will be calling something and it's fun to watch because he'll be yelling back at Coach Venables. Like, you don't know exactly what he's saying, but it's almost like he's saying, no, this is what I'm seeing. This is what we're supposed to do. And so to have that kind of leadership has helped this defense that has 5 stars all over the field, but it's helped that defense be even more dominant. I mean, this is a unit that, Georgia's number 1 team in the nation, they only gave up 3 points to Georgia. The other touchdown came off a pick 6. I mean, so as bad as Clemson's offense has been, the defense has kept them in games and has won them games. So to me, Skalski's that guy. And then another guy is Xavier Thomas. And he's a guy that has been, he's been injured. He came back, after a good freshman season. He was overweight and never really got into shape during his sophomore year. And then the junior season, he struggled with injuries and COVID and only ended up playing in 3 or 4 games. And so there's just been a lot of, him coming in off of high school. He was the number 1 defensive end in the nation, going to be, the next great thing, top 5 pick, all that stuff. And other than the flashes you saw as a freshman, it was like, man, where'd that go? And so this year he's gotten back in shape. He lost about 25 pounds, and he just looks so much more explosive. And so even when he's not getting to the quarterback, he's causing offensive linemen to pick up, and that's allowing other guys to get to the quarterback or to hurry the quarterback or to make a play in the backfield. And so to me, those are the 2 guys that I see as kind of the mid-season MVPs.
Yeah, and absolutely. That's almost, a lot of people overlook that, and it's easy to overlook it when the stats don't pop off the sheet. But the guy that opens up the holes for everybody else sometimes can be, not sometimes, is just as important as the guys that are recording the sacks and stuff in the stat sheet there. So, Shawn, I had a couple of staffers ask me to ask you some questions because, like I said, Rubbing the Rock is our favorite Clemson, I don't want to call it a blog, a multimedia site, however you want to put it. Some people get offended by the word blog. I'm not one of those. I feel like that's an important as well. But let's start with ours, Shawn. Now, he's a little annoying, but we put up with him. But Shawn wants to know, are the offensive issues that Clemson's experiencing this year, is it a system-wide issue, or is it solely due to the fact that they're going through normal growing pains with a young, relatively inexperienced new quarterback?
Oh, man. Can I say both?
Yeah, you can.
See, to me, Clemson's offensive issues are basically a perfect storm of everything that you just said. Clemson has inexperience everywhere. You're talking about an offensive line that's gotten better during the season, but you're talking about an offensive line that only had 2 returning starters, and both of those returning starters were playing different positions. So Matt Bachor started at center, this year. Well, last year he was playing guard. So it's been an offensive line that's been mixed and matched, and now he, the senior leader on the team, he's out towards ACL. And so Clemson's also had, I think it's now up to 16 guys who are out for the year with the season-ending injuries. So it's kind of been a perfect storm of inexperienced wide receivers, a quarterback who's inaccurate and just is not confident right now. And he's gotten better. You can see development, but it's just I think it's an inexperience issue, but then I also think there's something to be said about the system. And the reason I say that is because one thing that Clemson fans have complained about, even back, 2, 3, 4 years ago when they were winning national championships, was that Clemson has always been conservative offensively. And what I mean by that is if you go back and look at games that Clemson's played, when they ended up beating ACC teams 56-7. Even in the first quarter, what you saw a lot of times was Clemson filling out the defense. So what Tony Elliott's done is he'll let a defense kind of dictate, all right, so you're going to stop this. Well, we're going to do this. And to me, when you think about systems and you think about the offenses that are succeeding in today's college football, because today's college football is much different than 2018's college football.
Yeah.
I look at 2019 LSU with Joe Burrow, and I know they had tons of talent. In 2020 Bama, I understand they had tons of talent. But those offenses weren't about, let's take what the defense gives us. They were about, we're going to do whatever we want to do because we're better than you.
Yep.
And that's a different mindset that, to me, Clemson doesn't have offensively. And Clemson hasn't had offensively. It's more of a, we're going to methodically put you away. And so this year, when you don't necessarily have that experienced talent, methodically putting away teams isn't working. And so I think Clemson does have to go back to the drawing board, and there are going to have to be things changed systematically. I think the good news is you get all that talent back, and the good news is I think they are improving offensively. It's just been a slow and painful process.
Absolutely. And trust me, we know about slow and painful improvement. That's our year in a nutshell as well. But there has been improvement. It'd be worse if there was not improvement every game. As I got blasted for it on Twitter, but you know what? When you do stuff like we do, you say something that you believe in. If you get blasted, it is what it is. You don't really worry about it too much. But I said this was the first game since the opening game of the season that I was kind of disappointed because we didn't improve offensively. We did improve defensively during this game, and I got a bunch of, this is the first. We got 4 losses, and this is the first time you were unhappy. Well, even in the losses to Wake Forest and Virginia, we were in the lead in the fourth quarter in both of those games. So it's kind of hard to be disappointed when you had a shot to win those games. But you were talking about the various injuries, and Dalton, he's another one of our site members, said with the various injuries on defense, who do you look to step up as the season nears a conclusion?
To me, I look at that back end of the defense, and that's kind of the area that Clemson has been a little, if you want to say vulnerable defensively. I mean, they haven't given up more than 27 points in a game this season, but if you're talking about a little bit of vulnerability, I look at those defensive backs, and to me, a guy that is just playing out of his mind right now is Andrew Booth Jr., starting cornerback. And he's a guy that's going to be a first rounder next year. In this coming spring's draft.
Right.
And so to me, he's a guy that's going to have to step up. He's going to take whoever is the best wide receiver the rest of the way through this season, and he's going to put them on an island, and it's going to be up to him to kind of negate whatever that receiver is bringing to the offense. So to me, he's a guy that's going to have to step up. And then another guy that I've been really impressed with that Clemson, and you're going to see him a lot this weekend, is freshman Barrett Carter. And he's going to play some of that nickel Sam role. He's going to play some linebacker. He might even drop back and play a little bit of safety. Clemson compares him, and I see the comparisons to Isaiah Simmons. And he's just this freak of an athlete who has elite closing speed, but it's also physical. And Clemson's starting more and more to play him and to trust him in bigger situations. He got his first start last week against Pittsburgh. And I think as the year goes on and you look at what Clemson has left, this week with Malik Cunningham, and then they've got Wake Forest in a couple weeks, and then South Carolina, even Doty, he's a running quarterback. I think they're going to use Carter a lot to kind of spy those quarterbacks and kind of to be that guy who's going to be, just that all over the field player. So to me, he's a guy that's going to have to step up because it's going to be on him as a freshman to kind of carry the team a little bit. And so it's kind of interesting with all the experience that it's going to come back to a freshman, but that just kind of shows you the talent that Clemson has.
Absolutely. We're tired of y'all getting all the talent. We'd like for y'all to send a little bit of our way if possible. Also, for those of y'all that don't know, out there in Clemson land, is that what they call it? I don't know. Clemson Tiger Nation. For those of you all that follow Clemson out there, Louisville will be without their starting all ACC defensive back Keitrell Clark. He's out for the season, announced today during Coach Scott Satterfield's press conference. So that's going to make a big difference because Keitrell is I would compare him to the gentleman that you spoke of as far as being the difference maker in the defensive backfield, because they don't throw a lot his way, because when they do, he either deflects it or picks it off. So that's going to be a huge loss for us. And I'm not setting up for an excuse later on in the week.
Still there?
What's that? What'd you say?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I lost you for a minute.
Oh, okay. I was just saying that Keitrell Clark, he is a difference maker on defense. If you throw the ball to him, he's either going to deflect it or intercept it. So that's going to be a big loss. And I'm not saying that to set up an excuse in the next few, in the upcoming week if we lose. Oh, it's because we didn't have. No, it's just a fact. We're not going to have Keitrell Clark. Last but not least, now this question's from Higgy, and he rarely ever asks good questions, but I thought I'd give him a shot. He's horrible when it comes to this. I'm just kidding. He wants to know, what would you consider the identity of the? See, he already wrote it incorrect. What would you consider the identity of this Clemson team to be? They do not seem to be either a run-heavy offense or a pass-heavy offense like they have been in the past. Okay, not too bad of a question there, Higgy. I'll give you a little bit of credit there. What is the identity of this Clemson team for those who have not been following?
All of us that have been following are wondering the same thing. Yeah, so I'll go and tell you what they should be. They should be a team that lines up and runs the ball and runs the ball and runs the ball and runs the ball. But sometimes I don't know if it's because, they're trying to be balanced or trying to still get DJ going. But sometimes they just abandon the run. And you've got three, elite running backs: Will Shipley, Phil Maffa, Kobe Pace. These are three guys that literally, anytime they touch the ball, could go for 6. And they're three guys that all are averaging close to 5 yards a carry, maybe more than that. So to me, Clemson needs to be feed Pace, feed Maffa, feed Shipley, and then use the play action to, open up the passing game a little bit. But we're still figuring that out. We're going into the last month of the regular season, and Clemson doesn't have an offensive identity right now. The offensive identity is we score a touchdown and then we go 2 quarters without doing anything. And unfortunately, the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's also been just bad, not inaccurate passes. You can get away with inaccurate passes.
Right.
But when you throw a shovel screen straight to the defensive tackle, let him run in for 6, that's just bad. When you don't ever see the defensive end and let him just strip the ball away from you and run in for a touchdown, that's just bad. So you can't as an offense, what Clemson's got to do is they got to find a way to not turn the ball over and to run the ball. They're not going to be the elite offenses that we've seen with Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne or with Deshaun Watson or even with Kelly Bryant. They're not going to be that this year. And so to me, what the offensive identity's got to be is run the ball, go with some tempo every now and then, because interestingly enough, I don't know if it's because he's not thinking as much, but when Clemson's gone tempo, DJ's actually looked a little bit better. So to me, Clemson needs to mix in a little tempo, run the ball, and not turn the ball over. If they can do that, then they'll be fine. But right now, as far as an identity goes, we're still trying to figure that out. And we got 4 games left, and I don't think we're going to get there.
That's a very fair assessment there, Shawn. So you kind of told us what Clemson needed to do to win the game, and that's what was going to be my last question. But the flip side of that question was, what does Louisville have to do to win this game? Louisville's been a team all year that has just kind of methodically went. We also are in a similar situation because we don't take 2 quarters off every game. We just take 1 off, and it normally comes at the worst time in either the third or the 4th quarter. So that makes me feel a little bit better. But what does Louisville have to do to win this game? Because Louisville doesn't Malik's thrown 3 interceptions in the last 2 games for a total of 5 on the year. We don't turn the ball over that much as it is. So what does Louisville have to do to come away with this victory Saturday?
I think you alluded to it a little bit. I think for Louisville to win the game, for either team to win the game, I think it's going to have to be through the turnover margin. You can't give Clemson's defense free possessions or, Clemson's offense free possessions, because eventually you would think they're going to get in the end zone. They might not. I mean, you might be able to do it all day. But to me, I think Louisville's going to have to hold on to the ball. Don't have anything, those, because the thing is, a turnover, yes, it's another possession, but then it's also a momentum shifter. Don't have any of those things that give Clemson, some kind of confidence that, oh man, we're in control of this game. And then the other thing that I think is you're going to have to use Cunningham's legs. If I was pointing out anything that Clemson's defense has struggled with this year, it's against quarterbacks who can extend plays with their legs. And Cunningham can do that. And he can do that well. So to me, find ways to get him out. When the pocket breaks down, he's got to find a way to get out of there and not be sacked and turn, what might have been a 2-yard loss into a 6-yard gain. And if you can do stuff like that, stay on the field, I think you'll have a good chance. This is not, I'll go and tell Louisville fans, this is not Clemson that came in here 2 years ago. That's not what's going to happen. There's a reason that this game is, a 3, 4, 5 point spread. Louisville's got a legitimate chance. And to me, if they can establish a run and not turn the ball over, this is going to be a 4th quarter game. And, whoever makes those winning plays in the 4th quarter, that's going to be who comes away with the W.
So I just looked this up, and this is our 8th football game again, 8th season against you all. Did we not play last year?
We may not have.
It doesn't, which is odd because of us being in the same division, but it doesn't show. And that's not saying that the University of Louisville website cannot be incorrect. I don't remember feeling heartache last year at your all's, at your all's hands. But the average margin of victory here in Louisville is 20 points per game. However, you all are averaging 2.5 turnovers per game here, so that gives me a little bit of hope because, as you said, it's not the offense that we're used to. So let's get right to the last thing, and I do appreciate your time tonight, taking the time out to talk to me. So it's time to predict the score, and I'm sorry, Shawn, I have to do this, but I have to do it for the website. I have to stick to my word at the beginning of the season, do it for the brand, and because I picked against Louisville too many times this season so far, I'm going to go with the classic 17-14 win for Louisville. We got a big recruiting weekend this weekend. The crowd's hungry to see their Cards again in action. And dang it, it's time. And if we don't beat y'all this year, it's never going to happen. So what is your prediction for this week's game?
I think it's going to be close. I'm a little more optimistic about Clemson's offense after they put up some points against Florida State, but I'm going ahead and telling you, don't be surprised if Clemson scores on the first possession and then they go 2 quarters without scoring. So after it's 7-0 and you're thinking, oh man, this is going, it's just like the old times. Don't be surprised whenever we get to the fourth quarter and it's 14-10 or something like that. And to me, I think Clemson finds a way to win with the defense. I think maybe they find a way to get a turnover, and I think it's something like 2017. This is going to be a defensive game, and a lot of times you say, the team that has the ball last might be the one that wins. No, to me, the team that finds a way to create a turnover is going to be the one who wins. Louisville's got some explosive pieces on offense, but I think that Clemson defense is going to be able to kind of limit them throughout the day, but Clemson's offense isn't going to be good enough to pull away. So it's going to be a close one, and I like Clemson 2017.
And I agree. That was the premise behind my low score prediction as well, because I feel like this is going to be a lot like that first game here in Louisville. The game we actually had a chance to send into overtime, and I think we missed a last-second field goal. That was Lamar's freshman year, if I'm remembering correctly. I agree with you. I think the defense is going to be the star of the show here on Saturday night, 7:30 primetime game on ESPN. Is it on ESPN 1 or 2? I think it's on just the regular ESPN, correct? I think so.
I want to say it's regular. It might. I start to get everything mixed up now about TV channels. It might be ACC Network, but yeah, 7:30 kicks.
You there, Shawn?
Hello?
Yeah, you keep. I don't know what it is. It's not my phone because I'm sitting right next to a 5G Wi-Fi beacon. So yeah, I lost you there for a second. But yeah, it's Saturday night, 7:30, either on ESPN or the ACC Network. You can check on that for me while I'm wrapping up the show, if you don't mind. But shout out Shawn. Can you please let the people know where they can find all your work and your social media handle as well, please?
Definitely, it's rubbingtherock.com, and our Twitter handle is @rubbingtherock. Would love to hear from Louisville fans. If you guys find a way to pull it off, would love to hear from you. If Clemson comes up with another victory, still would love to hear from you. But we're going to have lots of coverage going into the game this week. Just looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And also we want to not only shouting out Shawn and Rubbing the Rock, but shout out again to all of our fine sponsors: Fitness Market, Shack in the Back Barbecue, Derby City Lawn and Landscaping, Four Pegs, All American Pool and Supply Company. We're working on more. If you'd like to sponsor the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast, give us a call, 502-694-0375, or hit us up on social media. The website, social media, on Instagram and Twitter, they are @Card Sport Zone. On YouTube, they are Cardinal Sport or @Cardinal Sports Zone, and on Facebook, it's 3 words: Cardinal Sports Zone. Hit that like button. Make it Facebook official. You can also find the podcast on all the podcast avenues: Apple, iTunes, Buzzsprout, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google, Amazon, and iHeart. Hit the subscribe button now. If you haven't listened to all the episodes of the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast, go back, check them all out. Hit the drop-down menu. It's podcast and CSZ podcast. Our old ESPN Louisville stuff is there as well. You can also check out our exclusives there at cardinalsportszone.com, the place that all began. Shout out to everyone out there who is sharing the podcast. We really do appreciate you all in your support. We love y'all. Until next time, this has been Shawn Spencer. Sorry, got a frog in my throat. This has been Shawn Spencer. This has been Jeremy Wyman, and this has been Game Day Prep. This has been the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast. Catch y'all next week.